This will be part 3 of the Helix build. You see, I've screwed up. Even in the last video, I started to notice something a little bit strange, and I didn't actually pick up on it until last night. And once I did, I actually just walked out in disgust. Obviously, I've gone into sleep mode, or I've gone into auto mode and not thinking. What I've done quickly, and I'll show you very shortly, in my first video, it was all about setting up the foundation tier. Now, I was really happy with that, and I know what I did there was also making the inside supports 5mm shorter than the outside, and that would give me a very, very slight sort of super elevation type effect. Well, I got to the second tier, and you know, I got excited. I've got all my boards cut out. I started to cut out all the required supports that I needed, but for some strange reason I decided to keep the internal supports 5mm shorter than the outside. Well, if you think about it, as I'm going up in level, that means the camber, the super elevation is getting more and more as I go up in level, and I'll show you that very shortly. So I'm at the crossroads at the moment due to the fact that I've put in a ton of effort. What are you smirking at? And I really don't want to tear this back down to tier 1. For one, and I'll show you very shortly, this thing is like built of bricks. This thing ain't moving. You know, I've screwed, glued, nailed, and I'll show you, I guess, the technique that I went around and how I applied to tier 2 and 3. If I can't tear it down, and I can't really bring myself to tear it down, what do I do? What do I do? Let's quickly just go over and I'll give you a bit of a look at it. So you can see the Helix here. This is what I've gotten up to prior to, I guess, being triggered by the mistake that I've made back down on tier 2. And what I mean is these inside supports, once I got off tier 1, set the foundation, these two supports are meant to be identical. As mentioned earlier, I don't know where I went into sleep mode, where I went into auto mode, but for whatever reason, I continued to make these inside supports 5mm shorter. So as we got up and around in the second tier and now the third tier, I guess the super elevation here, or the camber to this going into the center, is increasing with each tier that I go up. Now this at the moment, when I work out the degrees with my digital leveler, it's about 5.8 degrees. Now in real life, super elevation's around about 6 degrees, and that's way too much for the Helix. I think originally when I was down on the foundation tier, it was probably only around the 1.2 degree mark, which was more than enough for me, but obviously with this mistake, it's just, yeah, compounded that original issue. The problem I have at the moment is the way I have put this thing together, it is solid. It ain't going anywhere. You can't lift it up, you know, it's solid. It's put in very well, I must admit. What I've done, or how I've gone about that, is I start by gluing the two supports in place. I get this top piece in. I don't glue it anything at that stage. I pretty much put some pressure down here, get the nail gun and hit it on the bottom end of the support, because obviously I can't get in underneath with a screwdriver. So those nails hold it in place while the glue sets. And then obviously once I've got the two supports in place, the top piece comes on, it actually gets screwed into those supports and glued, and the same as the middle one. So everything's screwed, glued, nailed. It ain't going anywhere. What I've got in mind to get myself out of this situation, and to be honest with you, I have no idea if it's going to work. but I don't want to try and tear it back down to the foundation tier. I'm just concerned that some stuff could get destroyed, including track. So what I'm thinking at the moment, now these plans might change because I'm still continuing with the thought process, but what I was thinking, I don't want to tear it down. So how do I get the camber back a little bit? Well, really, without tearing it down, the only thing I can come up with is to actually these inside supports, and maybe start at this tier 3, do a clean cut in the middle of each of these supports, and then put a piece of the same support material in between to lift it a little bit. And it'll be glued, and I guess because the other side's still fixed, I'm thinking there's going to be a little bit of pressure applied that way, so it will hold in place while the glue sets. And then to cater for my OCD, because I'm thinking to myself, am I going to handle that? If it does, if I do pull it off, am I going to be able to handle it? I'm not sure. This is a journey of mine. The reason I came onto YouTube was just to share that journey, and I'm thinking, you know, mistakes and all. That's where I am at the moment. That's a predicament I'm in. Look, I don't know about the rest of you YouTube, especially those, you know, you're sharing your stuff online with YouTube. My concern at the moment is I started out was all about the build, and now all of a sudden it's all about YouTube. Getting the video out each week at whatever cost, and I really need to evaluate that. So look, it's something that's a balancing act, and that's something I need to look at. So watch this space. I may have more to talk about that in the future, but right now I need to decide, am I going to take the option I want to see if it fixes this problem, or whether it's going to make it worse? And anyway, watch this space, we'll come back.